In today's world, governments hold a vast amount of information and data, including sensitive information about their citizens and businesses. Despite advancements in technology, which was supposed to make the management and storage of information more secure and efficient, numerous cases have arisen in Trinidad and Tobago of important files going missing without anyone being held accountable.
I know you're reluctant to assign culpability, but does this not point to a fundamental weakness in the public service that falls under you, that something like this can happen? I'm not talking about whether it's Mr. A or Mr. B, but that a matter like this, a case like this where, for several reasons, should have alerted somebody to the implications. One, it involved a very high-profile case, Vindra Nightfall, that, the country was focused on this case. The state hired 3 senior counsel for this case. A lot of money was spent in legal fees. Secondly, it involved, the lawyer was Anand Ramlogan, a former attorney general, who has been, beaten the state at many cases in the court. And 3, it involved multiple defendants, 9 people. So, how could the public, anybody in the public service who had receipt of this, who appeared in court, who was involved in any way, not understand that this case was going to have massive implications if the state did not properly defend it?
Well, I'll answer that question with 2 short comments, Ms. Tate. One is, as I've said before, I don't want to preempt the investigation. And the second comment I would make is to say to you, yes, it is correct. Mr. Anand Ramlogan is involved in this case.
In many cases, Trinidad and Tobago, government officials are responsible for keeping records and safeguarding information. However, it is becoming increasingly common for important files to go missing or be mismanaged, with no one being held responsible. This issue is especially prevalent in countries with weak governmental structures and a lack of proper regulatory frameworks.
Who or how many people would have had control of that file?
That is a burning question which I hope will be answered by the investigation that I have asked should commence and proceed urgently. One of the questions that I have asked is, what is the process at the Solicitor General's Department and the Chief State Solicitor's Department from the moment a matter is served by which that matter is tracked, kept control of, and accounted for at every stage? That's a question that I have asked, I will be asking the investigator to get careful answers to.
In some cases, the loss of files can have significant consequences for citizens. For example, the loss of personal identification documents can prevent people from accessing government services, obtaining a job, or opening a bank account. In other cases, the disappearance of business records can result in financial losses and disruption to the local economy. In this instant, the end of a high-profile case, in the Twin Islands state of Trinidad and Tobago.
Due to the number of matters in which my instructions and approval are not being sought. So to answer your question, Ms. Tate, I think it would be to say there should be systems. Until this outrage, we have been operating on the basis that the systems have been working, not perfectly, but working, but clearly something has gone very wrong.
The problem of lost files is often compounded by a lack of accountability within the government. When files go missing, there is often no one who is willing to take responsibility and Northwest mechanism in place to ensure that the individuals responsible are held accountable.
Certainly what has happened has pointed to the fact that a system needs to be put in place to prevent the recurrence of what has happened. It must never happen again.
This is in part because many developing countries have weak or ineffective systems of governance and a lack of transparency and oversight. In order to address the problem of lost files and unaccountable officials, it is necessary to strengthen the governance and regulatory frameworks in Trinidad and Tobago. This includes measures such as implementing robust information management systems, establishing strict accountability measures, and improving transparency and oversight in government operations. The loss of important files and the lack of accountability in Trinidad and Tobago is a growing concern that needs to be addressed. Improving the governance and regulatory frameworks in these countries will not only help to reduce the number of lost files but also promote transparency and accountability in government operations. By taking action now, we can help to ensure that citizens and businesses are protected from the negative consequences of lost files and unaccountable officials. HCN News.